story of Hollywood Cemeteries Association, the Civil War, must begin with its founding as a rural cemetery in 1849. The city of Richmond was buzzing with energy. With over 27,000 people in the city, Richmond faced the classic problems of urbanized life. Things like disease, crime, sanitation, and of course, where they could bury the dead. The everyday Richmonder was also missing something. They missed the countryside, where they could go have a walk, have a picnic, and just enjoy the outdoors, free from the noises and odors of the city. Hollywood Cemetery provided just this for over a decade. The cemetery faced numerous financial woes during this time, though. Even with the reburial of James Monroe, the 5th President of the United States, the cemetery was only modestly popular with the locals. The Civil War changed all this. As early as June of 1861, Hollywood Cemetery began to bury the Confederate dead. These burials began as elaborate ceremonies, and as the number of dead rose, fewer people attended the burials. When the elite women of Richmond realized that gravesites were going unmarked and brave men going unmourned, the ladies took action and began to decorate the graves with flowers or wreaths. After the fall of the Confederacy in April of 1865, Hollywood Cemetery, along with much of the South, faced the likelihood of financial ruin. But as historian Mary Mitchell writes, the defeat of the South had secured Hollywood's destiny. More than that, though, the notion of the lost cause that emerged in the decades following the Civil War had guaranteed Hollywood Cemetery a place in history, and the Ladies Hollywood Memorial Association was there to strengthen this relationship between Hollywood and the Southerners' lost cause. The Ladies Hollywood Memorial Association, or HMA for short, was made up of middle and upper-class white women, usually those with important connections in the community. Sally Tompkins, for example, was an early board member of the HMA, who had connections to a judge in Richmond and to Jefferson Davis himself. The ladies of the HMA worked tirelessly for decades after the Civil War to care for the graves of fallen Confederate soldiers and maintain the landscape of the soldier section of the cemetery. An initial plan was also to build a monument to honor the Confederate dead buried at Hollywood. They needed to raise the money for this, though. So the HMA began to run gala bazaars, which eventually came to be known as memorial bazaars. People who attended these bazaars could purchase donated items, usually Civil War memorabilia. The gala bazaars were such a success in the first few years of the HMA that the cornerstone for the Confederate Memorial was laid in December of 1868. The Confederate monument still stands today, 90 feet high and with a Latin inscription that translates to "in eternal memory of those who stood for God and country." Along with gala bazaars, ladies' memorial associations also organized Memorial Days. In Richmond, during the late 19th century, the HMA's Memorial Day was quite a display of Southern spirit and lost cause ideology. Many businesses would close for the day as citizens gathered to march to Hollywood Cemetery. Women and children most often would carry flowers and wreaths to decorate the graves and memorials within Hollywood. The entire day was devoted to the celebration and commemoration of the veterans and Confederate dead. In 1886, the HMA extended their commemoration activities to include Union graves as well. This suggests that Reconciliationist memory had taken quite a hold of national memory by this time. Reconciliationist memory, according to historian David Blight, focused on the common experience and heroism of both Union and Confederate soldiers. First Memorial Day, May 31st, 1866, was attended by over 20,000 people. People continued to participate in the annual celebration of the South's cause well into the 20th century. In 1893, Jefferson Davis's body was buried with tremendous ceremony to a site overlooking the James River. Memorial Day continued to grow after his retirement to Hollywood Cemetery. What about Memorial Day or Hollywood Cemetery today? Things have changed at Hollywood Cemetery. The HMA had only 3 active members by 1980. With the maintenance of the graves now under the care of the Hollywood Cemetery Company, there is very little need for the HMA's help. In addition to this, as historian Mary Mitchell points out, This has also made it unnecessary for families to regularly return to the cemetery to maintain their family plots. Hollywood Cemetery has also seemed to have abandoned Memorial Day. While Richmond still celebrates the day or week every year, Hollywood Cemetery usually only offers a glimpse into what once was Memorial Day on their grounds with a tour titled History of Memorial Day at Hollywood Cemetery Walking Tour. Like other historical institutions in Richmond, the Hollywood Cemetery has tried to separate itself from its Confederate history. This is not to say they want to forget their Confederate background or the thousands of Confederate soldiers buried on the grounds. Hollywood Cemetery has simply distanced themselves from the possibility of becoming only about their Confederate history.